Good evening. It's Monday, April 22nd. No, I have not hit puberty. It has just been a wild playoff run between last night's Sharks game, a victory in double overtime, and then being there at game 3 for the Barracuda live tonight against the San Diego Gulls. I'm Kevin Lacey, and this is Barracuda After Dark. Thank you for joining us or joining me this evening. It is me solo tonight, unless someone wants to join on. But it was unfortunately a disappointing outcome to a pretty solid game 3. I won't say spectacular game 3, but a solid game 3. The San Jose Barracuda fall to the San Diego Gulls by the final score of 4-2. I'm here to discuss this game, discuss any of the questions that you have about the San Jose Sharks prospects, currently how the Barracuda are faring going into game 4, which now becomes a must-win because it is a best-of-5 series in the first round of the Calder Cup playoffs. But this, again, is Barracuda After Dark. And if you're listening on a favorite podcatcher of yours, such as SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, what's the new one? I always forget what the new one is. Oh, someone fire me. What is the new one that we have? I'm going to pull up my phone right now just to tell you. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You like the rally towel. Yes, I cannot find my tealtownusa flag right now, so I decided to throw up the rally towel. Pandora, that's it, Pandora. If you're on Pandora, thank you for tuning in late. And of course, as always, if you want to be a part of the show, send in your comments through the super chat on Google. And I'll try and get to as many of them as I can, especially since it is a loss. I will, it's one of those things where there's not so many good things to talk about tonight. So, of course, I'm going to rely on you for a lot of the topics that I discussed this evening. And then, again, if you're listening on those favorite podcatchers and you want to be a part of the show or future shows, such as Wednesday after Game 4, please, by all means, tweet at tealtownusa, and I will respond to your comments on the next show. So again, it's me at Kevin Lacey 22. This should be fun, more fun than the game, perhaps. I don't know. I had a wild time. I mean, starting things off right off the bat, the $5 beer and hot dog promotion was outstanding. I must say that I partook in a couple of fermented beverages, as you would say. But I'm doing all right now. And I do actually have to commend the staff of SAP Center and Avaya, and I can't remember what the vendor is who runs all of that. But it wasn't just $5 for those of you who were not able to attend Game 3 this evening, but who are looking to attend to Games 4 and now hopefully a Game 5 on Thursday. It was a little bit different than I was expecting, but at the same time, it was good of the Barracuda to do this because you got more money out of me. It ended up actually working out to being $3 beers and $2 hot dogs, and the beers, of course, were upgraded to 20 ounces. I realize I'm already straying away from the game, but this I have to throw out there right away as more people tune in live. Again, thank you. Is that it was actually not a hard price of $5, which allowed me to buy more hot dogs. And then when I felt like an extra beer, I tagged on an extra beer. So good on the Barracuda for this promotion. It is going to be running here through the first round, and I believe it will be running through the playoffs as long as the Barracuda advance further. But again, it's going to take 2 more games to get it done because the Barracuda are now down 2-1 in this best-of-5 series. Let me get you to the action. It started off really quickly. There were a couple of lineup changes in the sense of I don't recall Jeffrey VL being on the first line in the last game, but I know that Antti Suomela or the second game. Sorry, Antti Suomela, or some of you call him Suomela, or some of you even call him Suomeli. Running gag of the show, of course. He was not in the lineup, and some of you did tweet me over the past few days about what is going on with Antti Suomela or Suomela. I don't think anything's going on with him. He did partake in warm-ups this evening and was a healthy scratch and sat out there next to Marley Sommer for part of the game. So I think it was just a coach's decision. So what a I don't want to say downfall, but in the respect of being the Liga in Finland, their leading scorer last year, to making the Sharks out of camp, to being demoted to the Barracuda, to dropping down to the fourth line, and now being a presumably healthy scratch. What a drop. But Matt Fontaine got into the lineup, and he ended up setting up the first goal for the Barracuda because it was the fourth line who got us on the board, Team Teal on the board. Just 2:48 into the game, John Martin with a very heady play. It is probably the goal that I'll break down the most, in the sense of it was the one that put us up 1-0. But I really liked the play that John Martin made, because he beats Jeff Glass 5-hole, who I want to get to in a few moments here. Jeff Glass in net for the Gulls, the man who did not start game one. In fact, both game one starters have not seen any ice time since that start of game one, that wild start of game one, which if you watched the game one Barracuda After Dark, you know all about it. If you didn't, please subscribe to the channel, because we got a lot of great content. Of course, we are breaking down every Sharks game, breaking down every Barracuda game, and so on. So, but John Martin, really great play. He's on the left side with the puck, and he's a right-handed shot, which worked to his advantage, because John Martin, usually when you've got the puck, or if you've never played the game, I'm gonna try and break this down for you. John Martin gets the puck. Forehand is always your stronger side when you're right-handed. I'm probably showing you the opposite on the screen, but when you're the right-handed man, you're moving to your outside of your body, and you get more weight on the puck. Martin only went halfway, which actually threw off goalie Jeff Glass, because typically you're going to get your full extension, and then you're going to get full release on that shot, full power, etc. John Martin kind of stuttered himself deliberately halfway through his shot, to where it caught Jeff Glass by surprise. So as Jeff Glass is moving from left to right, or from right to left, from right to left, he gets his legs open, puck goes right through his legs before he can really adjust. Plus, Martin uses one of the defensemen as the screen. An outstanding shot, and really a heady play, because it's one of those plays where you can let your instincts kick in, and just, your instincts are generally going to make that full move from the outside to the inside. And the fact that he had the awareness to stop himself in mid-deke, basically, and just release the shot. Great shot. And that puts the Barracuda up 1-0. Things were looking really good off the bat for a team that really controlled the first two games. I thought that the Barracuda deserved to win game one. Sure, they blew the 3-goal lead, and then later a 2-goal lead at 5-3. But overall, the Barracuda were the better team in game one. And if it wasn't for that controversial overtime goal, I really felt that San Jose would be up 1-0 in that series. And then game two, again, the Barracuda controlled the game for the most part. They let the goals back into it, which has been a theme in this series. They let the goals back into it with about 8 minutes left, but the Barracuda hung on. They got those 2 empty net goals. Then all the fights in the world at the end of the game, where the officials had to just call things because the San Diego Gulls crowd was a little out of control, throwing everything. Thankfully, we saw none of that tonight, because in San Jose, we drink our alcoholic beverages. We don't waste them on throwing them at people. But I digress. Anyway, the Barracuda were looking very strong. They were actually being outshot in the first period. At the moment of this goal, I believe they were being outshot 10-7 or 10-6. but the Barracuda really did control the play. The 10 saves that Josef Koronash had made throughout most of the first period were really harmless shots. The Gulls did not have much of anything. The Barracuda had all kinds of plays in the slot. The problem was almost every great chance they had was going wide of the net. And it wasn't even Jeff Glass standing on his head. It was just straight up missing the net with the chances. There were a lot of redirections that connected but missed the net. And Jeff Glass was just all over the place, really looked out of sorts. And that was the difference in this game as far as I'm concerned, because the Barracuda then give up a goal with 38.4, I believe, seconds left in the first period. A broken play, or what it seemed like a broken play. Puck is behind the net, just kind of a scrum along the boards. No big deal. Puck apparently was passed out by Sam Carrick. I thought it just bounced out, but it goes right to the Gulls' arguably best player in Sam Steele, possibly the best prospect that the Anaheim Ducks have. Sam Steele buries it from the right-hand side past Josef Koronash to tie the game at 1. Really a stinger for the Barracuda, who, as I've already mentioned, really dominated the first period, no matter what the shots say. Then in the second period, Ben Street gets on the board with a power play goal as Francis Perron was in the box for a very, very blatant cross-checking penalty in the offensive zone. Not a smart penalty to take. The Barracuda, again, taking it to the Gulls to start the second period. And then Francis Perron with kind of a, he's battling for position in front of the net, and he's not the strongest guy, as we know. So I guess that's why the cross-check happened. I didn't see who it was that he cross-checked, but it was one of the defensemen right in the slot. I mean, in theory, one referee is watching the puck and one referee is watching the middle of the ice. And in this case, they did their job. I mean, there was no arguing this call. Perron goes straight to the penalty box. And then Ben Street, again, another kind of broken play. Josef Koronash with a couple of great saves on Max Jones and Sam Carrick. Ben Street ends up gloving the puck, dropping it down to his stick, and then through a screen, blazes it by the glove side. I won't say the glove hand, because Josef Koronash could not see anything that was going on. And that is something that Josef Koronash is going to have to be better at, is keeping that glove up no matter what the circumstance is, because if his glove is in position, perhaps Josef Koronash does make that stop out of instinct, if anything. But the left arm was down on his pad. The puck goes right past his shoulder, in under the bar. Ben Street with a seeing eye power play goal, which set the pace for the second period, really, because the Barracuda had started off well. That power play kind of killed things. The Barracuda kind of were in this game, but as the second period wore on, the Gulls really started to find their confidence, and the shots just started billowing up, basically. They were 14-6 in the second period, but overall, at the end of the second, it was a 2-for-1 margin. It was 26-13, and the Gulls would get a goal late in the third. Chase DeLeo, great play, goal of the night, easily goal of the night, and the only one that wasn't a broken play for the Gulls, in my opinion. Justin Clues gets the puck, goes up the left side, waits out Jacob Middleton, the best defenseman that the Barracuda have. He waits out the Middleton to see what he's going to do, then absorbs a hit as he's passing the puck to a wide open Chase DeLeo, who was acquired earlier this season from the Winnipeg Jets. Chase DeLeo undresses Josef Koronash, an outstanding goal with a forehand backhand around Koronash. No chance. What a goal. Third of the playoffs for DeLeo, and it's 3-1 goals. But thankfully, John Martin, who fourth liner tonight, not getting a whole lot of ice time. John Martin, nevertheless, made the most of his ice time. He gets his second goal of the game, the third goal of the playoffs. Matt Fontaine, who I mentioned, who has been in for Antti Suomela the last 2 games, gets his third assist of the playoffs, as well as Max Letunov. John Martin, it was kind of a broken play where Jacob Middleton, I don't really know how Jacob Middleton doesn't get the secondary assist on this, but good for you, Max Letunov. Jacob Middleton shoots, misses, hits the post far to the glove side of Jeff Glass. The puck comes right out to who I thought was Matt Fontaine. Matt Fontaine misses the wide open net, but the puck kind of bounces over to across the crease to the left side for John Martin. John Martin, wide open net, puts it in. One of the leaders on the team gets a huge goal, gets the Barracuda back in at less than 2 minutes after DeLeo's goal. So that breathes some life into this game where it really looked like the Gulls were taking control. Third period comes around. Can't really tell you guys much of anything about this third period. The third period played out a lot like how second periods typically play out. Both teams had some chances, a lot of neutral zone play, a lot of good forechecking. Goals outshoot the Barracuda 10-9, so even the shots were even. But really no quality chances on either side, and it gets down to about 2 minutes left. Josef Koronash is pulled. Barracuda have some possession, but really never threaten Jeff Glass, who by this point has settled into the Gulls crease. Adam Cracknell ends up with an empty net goal, which was his first goal of the playoffs, assisted by Kiefer Sherwood and Jacob Megna. That was with about a minute left, and that was it, folks. It was a 4-2 loss for the Barracuda tonight, so hopefully on Wednesday we'll be back at it. A much improved effort, because so far the Barracuda have not put together a full 60-minute game, or in case of game one, a 63-minute game. The first two games, they played about 55 good minutes. Tonight, they played about 25 good minutes. So Roy Summers is going to have to go back to the drawing board. I do know that in the first and the second period, I'm getting myself mistaken here. The first and second lines of the CUDA were switched up, where Jeffrey Viel had started out with Alex True and Francis Perron on the top line, with Ivan Chkovich, of course, with Dylan Gambrell and TJ Hensick, the line that has controlled play, controlled the series. Tonight, they were very ineffective. Dylan Gambrell had some nice plays, but for the most part, I did not notice Chkovich. I certainly did not notice Hensick. And Chkovich and Viel did switch through in the third period, but it wasn't enough. It didn't happen. So I don't know whether or not John Martin, again, who has 3 goals now, shockingly, very inconsistent player, but when he's on, he's on. Maybe it's time to get John Martin back up with Alex True and Francis Perron on that top line. I don't really know. Fontaine, Letunov, and Martin, though, obviously have a little bit of connection right now, so I don't know if you want to break that up on the fourth line. Definitely questions going into Game 4 for Roy Sommer to try and figure out before this series is over, because the Barracuda cannot afford to lose another game. So let me get going on to the chat here. By the way, I see a lot of people, a lot of comments in the chat, so thank you for that. Thank you for joining. Okay, Jochen Blickfeld. This is something I was going to get onto later on in the game, but since it has been mentioned in the chat already, and then I'll get to Nick damn it! That's going to be my new drinking game, not calling him Nick Merkley. It's Ryan Merkley. Brian called me out during the game, and I still called him Nick Merkley right now. Okay, but Jochen Blickfeld, okay, he was assigned to the Danish national team for the World Championships. I have not been paying any attention to the World Championships. I don't even think they've started yet, to be honest. But Jochen Blickfeld, one of those things, I know that someone on Twitter recently was saying, what are the Sharks doing? How can Jochen Blickfeld not be on the Barracuda? Well, I mentioned it earlier. If Antti Suomela can't even get it into this lineup, how is Jochen Blickfeld and 125 pounds of him going to get in? Of course, I'm being facetious in that. But Jochen Blickfeld, when I've seen him in rookie camp, when I've seen him in the development camps and the development scrimmages, he has looked all world. In juniors, he's looked all world. Even in the national tournaments, which, of course, that's where some big boys play, he's looked fantastic. But whenever I've seen him against NHL competition or even AHL competition in scrimmages, in practice, he has been invisible. He's looked like a player who has just, he's a guy. And a player who we saw that a lot with this year, who had an even bigger pedigree than Joachim Blichfeld did this year, was Jaden Hobgawaks, aka Scrabble. I think that Scrabble had 100. I'm forgetting it, but it was 120 something points last year in the WHL, and Jaden Hobgawaks was missing for a lot of the season, and that's my big concern with Joachim Blichfeld. So to bring him in during the playoff time, I don't really know what Joachim Blichfeld brings that's going to be an advantage over anyone else in the current lineup. Matt Fontaine, again, I would say Matt Fontaine's probably the so-called weakest link in the forward core right now, but he's got 3 assists on this team. He's got a ton of speed. He's one of the fastest players in the team. So I just don't know if Joachim Blichfeld even makes this roster right now. So to put him on the Danish national team, at least Joachim Blichfeld has quality games to be played. He's not going to just be sitting up at the top of the arena, looking down, just kind of going, okay, that I see that, whatever. Because at this point, that's not beneficial to a kid who's only 20 years old, 21 years old. So also real quick, Race Fan Rocks asking if there were any 49er players at the game. Yes, Section 101 had a luxury box with George Kittle and unknown other 49ers players. But that was pretty cool. Lil Jon, eat your heart out, because if you want to show true commitment, come out, be a celebrity, and come out to an American Hockey League game. And George Kittle and the Niners did that tonight, so that was pretty cool. He led on one of the rallies, and the fans got into it with the "Let's Go Cuda" chant. So, and they stayed for the whole game too. It wasn't a Marshawn Lynch situation where be there for puck drop and be gone before the anthem is over. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yes, AJ, Scrabble is a real thing, and I don't know if Brian Del Fava came up with that, but I think that of the nicknames for Jaden Hobgawaks, between Hogwarts and Haagen-Dazs and Hobgoblin, which I think they're all fantastic, and there's another one that I can't think of at the moment, but Scrabble, oh my goodness. And for those of you who are wondering, I have looked it up, and it's a 25-point score without any bonuses if you spell out Jaden Hobgawaks in Scrabble. Anyway, oh geez. So let's go on to some others talk. Oh, Ryan Merkley, of course, not Nick Merkley, as I'm sure I'm going to get hammered on these $3 beers every time I say Nick Merkley. But Ryan Merkley, I thought, looked pretty good tonight. So far in the first 2 games, he looked good. Of course, unlike Joachim Blichfeld, where it's a situation of who's he going to get in front of. Ryan Merkley is a bona fide top prospect in this organization. Jeremy Waugh, a nice prospect. We expected more, but at the same time, coming off the quadruple knee surgery that he's had and the shoulder surgery even before that, the fact that Jeremy Waugh was even able to complete a full season, I'm happy with his progress nevertheless. Tom Gregoire, another player, happy with his progress. But again, it's all about organizational need. Tom Gregoire's not even a Sharks player. He's signed to a Barracuda-only contract. So Ryan Merkley getting in some quality games in the playoffs and not looking poor playing. I do think there were a couple of times where he made some junior-esque moves that it's like, all right, you're a pro, you can't be doing that, turning the puck over. But overall, I didn't see any issues with his play in the defensive zone. I thought he showed a lot of skill and a lot of great skating moves in the offensive zone. So through the first 3 games, plus the 2 games to end the regular season, I think you have to be really happy with Ryan Merkley's progress here. The one knack that I will say is, boy, as great of a skater as Ryan Merkley is, he cannot stay on his feet. And I think a lot of it is the fact that he's outside of Scrabble, he is the smallest guy on the ice. Ryan Merkley is going to have to add probably 35 pounds of muscle. I'm not saying all at once. add 10 pounds of muscle this off season, add 10 pounds of muscle the next off season, and then hopefully by the time you're in the NHL, Ryan Merkley, you will have accumulated 35 pounds of muscle. But he just gets pushed off the puck way too easily, and he's a young kid. He's just turned 19, or he's only 18. I'm sorry. He won't even turn 19 for another year, I believe. So maybe August. August sounds right. So Ryan Merkley, so far so good. Keep it going. Sleepy Mofo in the chat saying Jeremy Waugh is his guy. Still hoping for the best from him. I've met Jeremy Waugh several times actually, and I think he's a pretty cool guy. Really cool guy. In fact, so cool that he came up to me to have a chat. Which that was mind-boggling because I mean, hey, I love doing these shows for you, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm a guy with a turtleneck. And so Jeremy Waugh came up to me earlier in the season and just shot the breeze. And I thought that was awesome. So really cool guy. I hope the best for him. I hope that he stays healthy because I do think that he has a promising career. I don't know if it's an NHL career, but he definitely has a promising pro career at this point. And hopefully with a pick that the Sharks used so high to draft him, hopefully it works out for the best. I certainly feel better about him than I did about Marco Mueller and Julius Bergman. Julius Bergman who's going back to Sweden, by the way. So, yeah. When I ran into... Sorry, Brian. Oh, thanks, Sleepy Mofo. I appreciate that. Jaden Hobgawaks. Oh, my goodness. Oh man, I liked AJ's comment here. How do you spell that? Halb and then boron, the boron sign from the table of elements. Yeah, pretty much. Now Marty asking about Ryan Merkley. Is his hockey IQ maturing as well? At this point, I will say it's too early to tell because I did notice that Merkley has those junior tendencies. But at 5 games of pro hockey, I mean, there were players for the Barracuda this season in January that were still trying to pull off those junior college-esque moves that just won't fly in the pro game. They won't work. It's funny how talent will follow you to a point, and then your mindset has to kick in, and then once you get your mindset, then you can let your talent get back into fire, into gear. It's weird how that works, but it's a true thing. So Cheryl's saying Mirko Mueller, since I was kind of bashing on Mirko Mueller a little bit. Mirko Mueller was broken by Todd McClellan. I don't necessarily know if it was Todd McClellan. I do think it was he was broken for sure. I think it was a situation. That's why he was broken. Mirko Mueller was about the only guy that the Sharks had that they could use at that time. And we all saw it coming. I mean, before Sharks Twitter blew up, I mean, we all saw this coming. This was when hockey's future was still around. Everyone were saying, before Reddit even, I think. I don't know. I was late to the Reddit game, but we could all see this happening where the Sharks needed a defenseman and there was nobody else, and we knew it was going to spoil Mirko Mueller. Just really unfortunate. I always relate it back to Gilbert Brule of the Blue Jackets, who was one of the first young prospects, top prodigy prospects that the Blue Jackets had, who did absolutely nothing because he played 2 years of pro hockey, then was sent back to juniors. And, how are you going to build any confidence? Now we've decided you're not good enough for the NHL. And that's kind of what it was with Mirko Mueller. So the fact that he's even in the NHL for the Devils, hats off to him. I think he's I've never met him versus Jeremy Waugh, but he seems like a very popular guy. Like, it seemed like Joe Thornton and Brent Burns loved Mirko Mueller as a person, absolutely loved that kid. And I've never heard a bad thing about him. So I am happy for him on a personal level, but I'm not sad that he's not on the Sharks anymore. And it is nice that the Sharks now have a lot of good young prospects in the pool. Middleton might be the only guy right now who can be called up to the NHL that I'd feel comfortable with. But in the long scheme, I think the Sharks are going to be fine on defense, especially given the questions that Erik Karlsson, will he resign? Won't he resign? Where is he going to be next season? We have no idea. Things are looking pretty bleak for the fact that he hasn't been committed so far to the Sharks. So don't know. But I still think the risk was worth it on that. I don't think he's Jannik Hansen. I don't think Erik Karlsson is Jannik Hansen. That's for sure. Let's see. I do see. Let's see. I want to go back because apparently I missed something that Sleepy Mofo said. So let's see. Blame Tim Burke on those. Oh yeah. Drafting. Me and Victor Arvidsson, of course. Oh, Nikolai Goldobin. All right. Well, you know what? Let's just throw it out there because at this point, like I said, I want to turn it over to the fans, turn it over to you. Again, thank you for watching. Tell a friend to come out to Game 4 on Wednesday to cheer the Barracuda on. Tell a friend to watch Teal Town After Dark, Teal Town USA. A lot of great interviews, Drew Remenda and Brody Brazil and Jamie Baker and etc. It's awesome. AJ really hooks things up great with the interviews. So check those out. And then, of course, the Barracuda After Darks featuring me. Okay, not so much that, but just the Barracuda After Darks. We do this by demand because we know there is a demand, a niche market, as I've said before, but we love the support that you guys give us. So anyway, AJ, Nikolai Goldobin's list of priorities. Number 1, tanning. Number 2, working out. Number 3, babes. Sleepy Mofo chimes in. Number 4, social media. And number 5, hockey, AJ. AJ decided that number 17 is hockey. Nikolai Goldobin actually used to be my client at one point. This is not a hair club for men. I'm not only a sponsor, I'm also a client or whatever the heck it was. Nikolai Goldobin was a really cool guy, but definitely didn't always have his mind on hockey. I will admit to that. So, but hey, hats off to him in Utica or Vancouver or wherever he's at right now. All I can say is cool guy. That's that. Sleepy Mofo also, again, Ryan Merkley, hot topic of conversation between the previous Barracuda After Dark that I did after Game 1, through Twitter and here in the chat tonight. Ryan Merkley, will he be on the Barracuda next season? Emphatically, no. He will not, because Ryan Merkley, I almost called him Nick Merkley. Oh my goodness. Ryan Merkley is still, because he is under 20 years old, he must go back to juniors if he does not make an NHL roster. That is a league mandate. So that's why next season is going to be super exciting when Ivan Shkovich and likely Sasha Chmelevski, unless he makes the Sharks out of training camp, those guys will be on the Barracuda next season because they will be of age to do so. Ryan Merkley will absolutely not be. Thank you, John. I appreciate the support. Just look again, if you're listening on the podcatchers, you have no idea what I'm talking about with John right now. But thank you for the support. I really appreciate that. That's two shows in a row, and that just warms my heart. Just some really great compliments in the chat. So, but Ryan Merkley, anyway. Yeah, he won't be with the Barracuda next season until a situation like this comes about, where if he's not on the Sharks, he's in juniors. When his junior season ends, if they don't go to the Memorial Cup, he'll be on the Barracuda on an amateur tryout. So it's the same situation with players who come over from Europe, like Noah Road. Noah Road a couple of years ago, or even last year, where he came over because his Swiss season was over. If Noah Road was as good as he thought he was, maybe his Swiss season would have ended with a championship any of those years. But he's not a prospect with the Sharks anymore, and there's a lot of reasons as to why. And for those of you who sit in section 109 at the Barracuda games, we've all seen it. We all know it. And bye, Noah Road. I'd rather have Nikolai Goldobin. Anyway, that's a little mini rant here. We have an El Segundo native. What? Oh no! No! I refuse to buy into that whole thing. You can have Matt Nieto, but leave my Sasha Smoleski alone. I won't do it, guys. But let's move on to the wraparound, because so far, through these 3 shows between Game 1's After Dark, and then when I did the little check-in on Tealtown After Dark for Game 2, and now this one, there have been no other games to discuss in the American Hockey League. However, the series have now all began since the last time I was talking with you guys, so I do want to get over this. Oh, real quick, 3 stars, by the way. Max Jones was the 3rd star with 2 assists. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think Sam Carrick played a better game than Max Jones. I think Ben Street played a better game than Max Jones. But that is what it is. 2nd star, John Martin, absolutely, for the limited ice time that he had. I think John Martin with his 2 goals was outstanding. And he is a locker room leader, and he tonight was an on-ice leader, and it's just a shame that no one else could follow suit. Number 1 star, easily Chase DeLeo with the game-winning goal. He was all over the ice. He had several great chances on Josef Kornash. In fact, I would say Josef Kornash was the 3rd star of the game, but it's hard to give the Barracuda 2 stars in a loss unless you're the Vancouver Canucks. So in that respect, Josef Kornash is the honorable mention because of Chase DeLeo and how good he was tonight. Absolutely the number 1 star with that game-winning goal. So now, anyway, around the league, because the American Hockey League playoffs have begun, and there was a blowout right off the bat that I want to get to, as mentioned to me by Richard Ramirez at the game tonight. The Milwaukee Admirals are down 1-0 in their series to the Iowa Wild. That is Nashville's wow, all of a sudden I can't think here. Nationals farm team versus the Minnesota Wild's farm team. Troy Grosnick was in net for this, and I'm going to try and pull up the box score for this because it was a 7-0 Wild victory in Game 1. I just want to touch up on that. Troy Grosnick with 4 goals against in a little over 31 minutes, but 26 shots against in a little over 31 minutes. Holy moly. I mean, what got into the Iowa Wild? The Milwaukee Admirals were the hottest thing going in probably all of hockey going into the Calder Cup playoffs. And to lose Game 1 7-0, my goodness. And not only that, Andrew Hammond, you all know Andrew Hammond, the Hamburglar, the star of the Ottawa Senators for a little while, came in, saved the Colorado Avalanche from their goalie debacle in last year's playoffs. My, how things have changed. Now, Andrew Hammond with a 29-save shutout last night for Iowa. So I do want to actually break that one down. But overall, throughout the league, the other Pacific Division matchup, the Colorado Eagles and Bakersfield Condors, are shockingly 1 game each, 1 game apiece here going into Game 3 tomorrow night in Bakersfield. Colorado gets the split by winning 4-1 in Game 2 on Saturday night. They lost Game 1 3-2. So good job by Colorado, because Bakersfield, they're not as hot as they were when they had their 18-game winning streak. But Bakersfield is definitely a team to be reckoned with. They won the division, and so that's Colorado's first AHL playoff victory. But now potentially 3 in a row in Bakersfield, much like how the Gulls and Barracuda are now, where we sure hope it's 3 games in a row in San Jose. So moving on to the other Western Conference matchup, another 1-1 series tie. The Chicago Wolves tied up the series with the Grand Rapids Griffins. The Griffins were a team that, unlike the Milwaukee Admirals, completely faltered going into the playoffs. I should have pulled up the stats here, but if I recall, I know that when the Grand Rapids Griffins played the Barracuda in back-to-back games here last month, or earlier in the month, excuse me, they had a chance to make the playoffs in both games, and they lost both games. and they lost the next game and the next game and the next game and the next game. They did not win another game for the rest of the season. I believe it was 9 in a row, but the way the standings worked out, the other teams lost just enough games where the Grand Rapids Griffins still made the playoffs. I mean, not how you draw it up going in. I mean, I've been talking lately about how the Sharks, it's the stupidest thing ever to want to go down 3-1 in a series, but maybe it's the best thing for them. Losing 8 or 9 in a row for the Griffins. Maybe someone can help me out in the chat here. Just awful, awful, awful. But then Grand Rapids wins game 1 5-1, and then Chicago earns the tie there in Chicago in game 2 on Saturday. So again, that's another one where game 3 is tomorrow night. On to the Eastern Conference really quickly. Toronto is up 2-0 in their series over Rochester. Rochester has your former Barracuda favorites such as Danny O'Regan and Colin Crusher Blackwell. But right now, Toronto, again, another team that really has had some highs and lows this season, and they won the Calder Cup last year. They're the defending champs, and they barely made the playoffs this season. But right now, they are, even as the low seed, up 2-0 in their series. Game 3 is on Wednesday. Another 2-0 series is Cleveland and Syracuse. The Monsters, who are the Blue Jackets affiliate, apparently everything's going right for the Blue Jackets because that organization has not lost a playoff game out of 6 tries so far this year. They are up on, funny enough, the Lightning's affiliate, Syracuse Crunch. Holy moly. What is happening? Syracuse should be dominating this series. They are easily the favorite in this one. Cleveland, who I heard in during the intermission on the AHL Live feed saying Cleveland hasn't made the playoffs since all the way in 2016. Oh, okay, all right. But hey, Cleveland putting up a good show. They win 5-3 and 5-1 respectively in Syracuse, and now go back to Cleveland for back-to-back games starting tomorrow night. We've got the Hershey Bears and Bridgeport Pirates at a 1-1 standoff right now. Hershey Bears, another team like Toronto that was kind of up and down. In fact, they've even had some roster fluctuation based on the Capitals' needs. But the Hershey Bears do pull off a 2-0 shutout victory on Saturday after falling 3-2 in double overtime on Friday. So that's the Caps affiliate and the Isles affiliate, 1-1 going into Game 3 tomorrow night. And the last series, the one that to me might be the most shocking, the Charlotte Checkers are tied with the Providence Bruins 1-1. The Charlotte Checkers, easily the delight of the American Hockey League this season. Yet they hang on to a win 5-4 in game 1 on Saturday. And then last night they fall to the Bruins at the best named arena in the world, the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence. That was a 4-2 final. Game 3 is on Wednesday. So that is your AHL kind of look around the league. And then real quickly, I do want to mention it, some big things happening in the NHL tonight. The Dallas Stars broke my bracket. I was one of the only people left remaining who didn't pick Tampa in their bracket because I picked Nashville to win the Stanley Cup. But Nashville falls to the Dallas Stars. What is happening in the NHL? I'm not even talking about Nashville. Let's just think about this for a second. From the All-Star break until the trade deadline and even beyond, we were saying 6 teams in the Western Conference want to make the playoffs. Does anybody else want to make the playoffs? Anybody at all? Colorado, you what? No, maybe you don't want to make the. Oh, okay, all right, the late push, whatever. All right, cool. Dallas, you want to? No, you're sitting in like 11th place. Okay, you barely get in, and now look who's advanced: Colorado and Dallas, because we all thought that. So crazy times in the NHL, and then Game 7 for Carolina and Washington. Besides the fact that I did pick Carolina to win that series in 7. Guess who Carolina has? Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams. Woo! and Justin Williams with a big goal. Great redirection tonight in the win for the Hurricanes. So that's going to Game 7 Wednesday. And then, of course, the game you've all been waiting for, the Bruins and the Maple Leafs. If you're living in another country, because I don't care, the Sharks and the Knights tomorrow night, Game 7. Of course, check out tealtownusa After Dark for that, because win or loss, it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get back to the chat here real quick before I sign off. And, oh yeah, you know what, AJ, I mentioned Troy Grosnick earlier. Another reason why you should subscribe to the channel is we had an interview with Troy Grosnick last year, 2 years ago. No, it was last year when he wasn't even with the organization, I believe. Troy Grosnick interviewed with us, which was even cooler. So, of course, check out the great content. Sleepy Mofo says Dunkin' Donut Center is not as good as Little Caesars. Well, you know, Dunkin' Donuts is not the best donut, but Little Caesars is not the best pizza. So I'm going to just call it neutral in this case. And so we'll leave it at that. Colin Blackwell says that Brian says that Colin Blackwell is in Nashville. You are correct. So Brian is definitely on, you know, watching my back this evening for any errors that I'm making. You are the new stat boy, Brian, I believe, because you're right. Colin Blackwell was on Nashville this year. He even debuted in the NHL, which is outstanding for a player who was drafted in the 7th round by the Sharks, not signed by the Sharks, signed by the Barracuda, and then eventually a tryout with the Sabres, got a contract, and then went over to Nashville this year. So much like an Andrew Desjardins situation, just working your way up, and you never know what's happened. Don't give up, kids. So let's see here. Brian's saying, what about Vladdy Jr.'s debut? Are you talking about Vladislav Kotkov? Or are you talking? Oh, no baseball chat. This is a hockey show. I realize what we're going on here. So you can send the baseball stuff to me in June, or to Logan Couture, because yeah. My pick was my pick. Thank you, Steve Cropper, for this question. Pick Sharks or Knights in the bracket. I did pick the Knights in 6 games, so I am elated. Last night, I lost my mind. I think half of my voice being gone was me screaming my lungs out when Tomas Hertl scored in double overtime, because I was, besides the woohoo and all that, I mean, losing my mind. I was just screaming, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, to score shorthanded in double overtime has literally never been done in the NHL before. So just outstanding. I do actually have a question on Twitter that I want to get to here. I'm now going into the squirrel mode of the show. Mike Powell sent this in, and he asked, Mike Powell, where did you go? Okay, this gets back to what I talked about in the start of the show. Do the Sharks give Antti Suomela a contract for next year? And I'm going to go with no. Given the fact that they do have more incoming talent coming in next year, like Joachim Blichfeld. I actually don't even normally have this prepared. I don't yet, but you've got Joachim Blichfeld. You have Vladislav Kotkov. I'm going to really quickly pull up my depth chart because I did update it. Manny Biederer, who isn't even in the lineup right now because he's injured. Rourke Chartier, again, not in the lineup because he's injured. Jonathan Dolan, not in the lineup because he's injured. Those are 3 forwards right there, and we still can't fit Blichfeld in the lineup. Max Letunov is hit or miss in the lineup. Still don't know if he's got an injury. Tim Clifton saw, 5 games this year? Marcus Vela is signed to an AHL contract. I don't know if John McCarthy's coming back year. This might be his swan song, and it's definitely TJ Hensick's last year. So those are a couple of roster spots that'll open up. But overall, you know, Antti Suomela, I'm sure he's a really good kid from what I've told. Another guy, I've never met him before, but I go out to watch warm-ups to more or less just see the composure and see how players act out there more than anything. And Antti Suomela always seems to have a smile on his face, just seems like a really good guy, happy to be there. No matter what the situation is, he goes out there and he doesn't give less than 100%. So there's that. I got to think that a team would look at his pedigree overseas and think, oh, let's bring him in for next year. Because if he's not getting a look in the AHL like Vincent Praplin this year, part of that was injuries with Praplin. But Antti Suomela, I got to think, if money calls, he's going back overseas next year. And with the limited roster space, I don't know. So thank you for sending that in, Mike Powell. That's really appreciated. Sleepy says, does he find another NHL team or go back to Finland? I think KHL. That's where that is where the money's at until you don't get paid anyway. That's where the money's at. So, or even Sweden, Finland's a great league, but I still don't think it has the same effect that Sweden does. That to me is the top paying league outside of the KHL. Again, when they're paying their contracts out. So yeah, I do like Antti a lot, but I don't know. So let's wrap this up because I went on a lot longer than I planned to. But I thank all of you again for checking out the show tonight. 'Cause there were a lot of people in the chat, and for a solo show, that's fantastic. And I still have Game 4 to do. That will be Wednesday night. So I'm going to say sayonara, folks, or as some people say, suaveli. So on behalf of Tealtown USA, let me throw my graphic up, the only one that I have. I wish I had the follow everyone graphics. But of course, follow at Tealtown USA for up to the minute info about the Sharks of Barracuda, breaking interviews. You never know who you're going to get an interview from. You never know who might just spring up live in the spur of the moment. I mean, same with Teal Tinted Glasses, too. We've had a couple of shows recently where Ian has just decided, you know what, now's a good time. So catch it on your lunch break. Not a bad idea if you just eating and listening and get your hockey in before the games begin, because tomorrow is going to be freaking crazy, freaking nuts. I hope to be at the Sharks game. I have no idea what my plans are, but I'll definitely be at the Barracuda game on Wednesday, and I hope to see all of you back in the chat on Wednesday night following the game, whatever time I can get home from SAP Center. So again, on behalf of Tealtown USA, I'm Kevin Lacey, and y'all have a great night. Just going to kind of stay here for a little bit because some nice little graphics should be popping up on the replay right about now. All right, that's enough. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.